Peace, y'all. Before we get started, I felt compelled to remind everyone to stay safe and stay abreast of all the atrocities happening around the world. The people of Palestine, Tigray, Congo, Sudan, Haiti, and countless other territories are currently fighting for their rights and their lives. And if you're choosing to take action, please take every precaution you can. Stay hydrated, stay in groups, cover your face, and please, more than anything, don't lose hope. I've been leaving links to organizations and resources at the bottom of every episode description for a good minute, so please go check those out for places to donate and to find ways to take action today. We're not free until all oppressed people in the States and abroad are free. Much love, stay strong. Now let's keep this shit moving. What's good, y'all? My name is Dylan Green, and this is Real Notes, a space dedicated to blurring the cultural and artistic lines between rap and film. I'm here to chop it up with everyone from rappers and producers to journalists and video directors about their relationship to movies and how, if at all, film inspires their craft. My guest this week is Chicago rapper, producer, promoter, and all-around creative Rich Jones. We spoke about food blogging, Saturday Night, Beetlejuice Beetlejuice, 2001: A Space Odyssey, Ghost Dog Way of the Samurai, watching movies not made for kids as a kid, establishing himself as a rapper, producer, and promoter, bringing Chicago with him wherever he goes, and the creative process behind his latest project, Sour Dub, produced entirely by Sleep Sinatra. Come fuck with us. What's cracking, everybody? Welcome back to Real Notes. Good times. I don't know where my brain just went. It's been a busy fun day. It's really starting to feel more like fall. I got y'all can't see it, but I got a whole bag of vanilla Tootsie Rolls. So life
can confirm.
Yeah, life is beautiful, man. I'm like I couldn't be happier. My name's Dylan Green, CineMasai. Got a lot of names, do a lot of shit outside, inside, all sides. And I'm with somebody else who I feel like I say this a lot, but like this man is outside, inside, everywhere, all over the place. Transporting live and direct from Chicago, where I think you're home now, right? You're not traveling.
Oh no, we're in the home base.
Beautiful. So yeah, I mean, like he's all over the place, just doing all sorts of raps and sings and produces and fucking brings people, community builder, organizer, good guy extraordinaire, one of the most sincere and hardworking people I think I know in my life. Rich motherfucking Jones is in the goddamn house.
Dylan motherfucking Green is in the motherfucking
house. Something like that, man. Sour Dub is out now. It's been out for a while, but it's still out. Go find it. Go listen to it. Shout out to Sleep Sinatra. These beats are fucking, Sinai. These beats are fucking amazing. Like, you two sound great together. Rich, thank you so much for being here. It means the fucking world. Thank you.
Man, thanks for having me too.
Come on, man. Like, yeah, this is like, I mean, like, yeah, like we've been, this has been in the works for some months, really even more than some months, but like especially for some months. So, like I'm happy that both of us are busy, or like not busy enough to finally sit down and talk about shit, because we're both, yeah.
Absolutely, we be running around and shit. So this is a treat.
Yeah, man. Yeah, no. Last time I saw you was like not even a week ago. I took you over to this fantastic deli over by where I work. Shit was super fly. The fucking I had a hash. What'd you have again? Remind me one more time.
I had those. I had the latkes with the creme fraiche and the salmon roe and the chive.
And the capers,
and the capers, and then I took the egg from your brisket hash, and I got all drizzly with the yolk on top of it. In future orderings, I'll probably just ask for an egg on the side, and then choose my own adventure. But yeah, it was really awesome, man. It's great when I can encounter exciting breakfast or otherwise type foods, especially when like the Montreal style isn't exactly one I know of, but I haven't experienced too much of it. So it was cool to kind of get that. Now, next time I just got to go to Montreal. We'll go.
Right.
We'll just
we'll
plan a little a buddy trip and then get abducted by the Quebecois, and then we never come back to America. We just go work in the syrup mines.
Oh, let's go. But yeah, no, shout out to Mylan, shout out to the Montreal Jewish deli near my job. And yeah, nah, like you I don't know, man. You do all sorts of shit. You make music, you talk about food a lot. Like you're always on some new shit. Every time I see you post some food related thing, I'm like, where do I gotta travel to go get this shit? Like yeah, I don't know. Like it's always a new adventure with you. And like you just got off maybe like what was it been like 2 weeks since you were in LA with Quelle and Denmark and Cavalier and shit.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, that was about 2 weeks ago tomorrow. It feels like a month and a half ago. Time is moving so quick, but
yeah,
yeah, I was there, and then we did that show. Shout out Last Word, who helped us put that together, and then was in New York, as you know, this last week for like a quick little 2 day jaunt, and I mercifully am home for longer than 48 hours, but I'm leaving again Thursday because I'm about to do 2 nights with Devin the Dude, um, you know,
yeah, you are.
in Chicago and in Indy. Um, and yeah, by the time people hear this, I will have done these shows. So, go look for the photos and the videos. It's gonna be lit. um,
Yeah, nah.
but yeah, man, it's been a busy spring and summer. This whole year, I feel like I don't know if I've moved around nearly as much um with such frequency. I don't know, like if ever, and I've been all over the place too for all manner of reason. So I don't know. Ultimately, very grateful and happy about it, but also I love Chicago too. So at certain points, like I'm gonna stay put. Maybe people come to me in 2025.
Yeah, bro.
That'd be fun, but we'll see. I can't. It's hard to turn down fun things all over the place, so I do my best.
Yeah, I hear you, man. It's too many things to see, too much to do, too much fun to have, too many people to see, food experiences, all that good shit. But I know another thing you love and we talk about a lot is movies. So let me ask you this first question I ask everybody who comes on here. What was the last movie or TV show that you had the chance to watch that you had a strong opinion about?
Man, that's tough. I feel like I guess it's a question. We talking strong opinion, like fuck that shit, or a strong opinion, I loved that shit.
Whichever one, like that. Yeah, that's why I never specify. It's just
Okay,
strong opinion.
so I'm gonna give a quick little rapid fire of a couple of things. I saw Killing of a Sacred Deer. I
Wow.
strongly felt like it was mid. Um, so
Yeah.
there's that. I saw Creature of the Black Lagoon, like the original joint. I strongly thought it was campy as hell, but I appreciated all the underwater filming sequences, and I'm curious about the history of that and if this was some sort of extravaganza where this was like a big deal. They were filming underwater. For all I know, this is old hat by whatever year they're making this. So there was that.
Right.
Um, strongly grossed out by The Fly with Jeff Goldblum.
Classic.
That was good. Strongly whelmed by I mean that's I'm not gonna be mean. I've been watching a lot of Paul Schrader movies, the dude who wrote Taxi Driver, and like he's an interesting director in terms of like the stories that he chooses to tell, but there's also moments where I'm like, man, like I don't know, it doesn't necessarily hit like all the way, but there's elements to it that I've enjoyed. Like I just watched this movie, Light Sleeper, with Willem Dafoe
Hmm.
and Susan Sarandon, and I'd never heard of this shit. And it's just like I don't know. It was yeah, like I started watching it, I fell asleep. I ran it back from where I fell asleep the next day, and it was like okay, that was a movie. So strong opinion about a movie being a movie. Light Sleeper by Paul Schrader. Um, a strong opinion of a movie that was an absolute shit show, and I actually I feel like you may have seen it and you probably might have an opinion that Saturday Night movie they just came
I
out with.
still haven't seen it. I almost saw it this weekend.
I don't want to be a spoiler, nor do I wish to color your opinions of it without seeing it. So we can talk about that later. But yeah,
Gotcha.
strong opinion about a movie that we're going to talk about later Saturday night after you've watched it. Um, but yeah,
So tell me, you don't gotta go too deep into it, but did you like just cards on the table? I'm not really a SNL person. I've seen my fair share of
okay,
clips and shit, but like outside of like the general lore and history and like a handful of like like ubiquitous funny moments, like SNL was never really my shit like that. It's just not something that I like really like. I know people who were like obsessed with it, and I was never that.
right.
But
Okay, that's
but
fair. That's fair. I feel
but
like yeah.
I was just gonna ask, how did you feel about the movie? Just like general check the temperature.
Uh, I was I was laughing in disbelief at several sections of it where I'm just like, I can't believe this is a movie. Because there was just parts of it that were wholly like unbelievable, and I don't know, it's definitely on its own dick. I'll say that. I mean, yeah, it's a 50-year institution, but I think at that point you kind of have a certain level of latitude to do that, but um yeah, it's something where I feel like it's an interesting watch regardless of your knowledge of it. I've seen some of the older because it's the first episode or the lead up to the first episode. So like, I'd seen some of those sketches and randomly we'd actually watched that episode in particular a couple years ago because Hulu had all the SNLs from like going back to the beginning. So like that was kind of interesting to have some perspective of what that show was going into it. So in that sense, it kind of prepped me just by default. But yeah, it's not something you necessarily need to know. And I feel like in some ways they probably semi accurate. I mean, Chevy Chase is an asshole, so I know they got that right.
Right.
And
I could just tell that from the trailer. Yeah, yeah.
exactly. And Dan Aykroyd's acting like Dan Aykroyd. And like I couldn't tell if the actor was like I know he wasn't a McPoyle, but he feels like he's like a McPoyle cousin or something. I don't know. He was a
Mhm.
very interesting actor. But yeah, either way, yeah. So that's a little quick. Oh yeah, and then last thing, strong opinion I have about a new type of movie going experience. I saw Nightmare Before Christmas in 40X, and
Mhm.
I feel like I wish I hadn't had a hot dog and fries before I went because the chair was moving around and shit, and it was just like kind of sick at a certain point. And I'm like, I feel like such a grandpa right now. But then in my heart, I'm like, if you didn't do all that before, you'd have been fine. It just was a lot of movement. And then also like I think as a technology, it's interesting to see the ways that it's like very like revolutionary and like next generation and other parts where it's like y'all haven't figured this part out yet, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Shout out the
Yeah,
shout out the Regal Pass. We got that Regal Pass, so we're going to the movies on a whim. We're like, fuck it, we'll go see some shit we have no attachments to.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Heard that, bro. Yeah, nah, I got AMC Stubs A-list, so I do that shit all the time. I also just got the Alamo equivalent too, which I think is season pass. So yeah, I'm like I just go see shit. Like
Yeah,
obviously there's stuff I want to see and stuff that I don't want to see, but I'm more inclined to go check literally anything out if I don't gotta pay for it. So fuck
true.
it. But yeah, I'm like, yeah, we were talking about 40X last week, and I haven't been in like an official 40X theater yet. The one time I did, I think I mentioned this too. My lady and I saw Beetlejuice back when it came out, which I thought was not good, but like the
Wait, you
actual,
didn't like Beetlejuice?
eh, not really.
Whoa. Now, see, now that you've just reminded me, I actually thought they landed the plane quite nicely, and we were actually quite pleased with it. And I'm quick to be like, nah, or quick to be like, this is a hate watch, and I'm okay with that. Like I didn't get what to talk to me. Let's dissect this a bit.
Please. So okay, so it wasn't a hate watch. I'm trying to think. So like the stuff I liked about it, Michael Keaton's great in it. It's really cool to see him play Beetlejuice again. Winona Ryder, love to see Winona Ryder whenever she shows up anywhere. The movie looked gorgeous. I could kind of tell that Tim Burton was more excited to make this than he has been to make any movie in a while. Um, the thing, and you like, of course, like the general like visuals, the cinematography was great. I love the set design. Like I just love that. I love that look of a movie. Like I think one of the reasons Beetlejuice has kind of persisted the way it has is because of the way it looks, like like more than anything. But to me, it really felt like they had four different ideas for a Beetlejuice sequel, and we're just like, yeah, just it just feels like everything's all happening. Like it feels like I'm watching different movies. Like the thing with what's Shorty's name who plays Wednesday? Jenna Ortega. Like the whole thing with Jenna Ortega and the boy who's dead. That feels like a Beetlejuice sequel. Everything going on with like Monica Bellucci, like the scene where she puts herself back together from the box is maybe my favorite scene in the whole movie. She had no reason to be in that movie because she did nothing else. Like I know, like she's
Yeah, I think that that part specifically is the thinnest portion, and I think could have been fleshed out a lot more. I agree. Um,
but it looked cool as hell. Like
yeah,
I'm not trying to take away from the fact that like she did her thing. I love Monica Bellucci, but like I don't know, man. Like generally it just like I finished watching it and I'm like I didn't need this. Like I just like not that I actively disliked it, but I was like I would have been fine if I didn't see this.
yeah. See, my family, we have such a deep relationship with this movie specifically. At this point, I feel like Halloween is like is like the real holiday. Just because there's so much less weight attached to it versus say the ones that occur at the end of the year. So it's just like
Yeah.
this feels kind of like the fun flirty one, and everything else is kind of like solemn
Yeah.
or shiny and kind of hollow. But yeah, I feel you. I feel like I said, I was ready to hate it. I was ready, and it just didn't happen, and I would call it like more than pleasantly surprised. So yeah, agree to disagree. But I feel you. The
Yes.
Monica Bellucci section was like that was the one part especially where I'm like, okay, this is not cooked enough. And the storyline with the young boy or whatever, I thought it worked super well. I won't lie to you though, I called that shit immediately.
Yeah.
Just because you don't see the parents' faces, and I'm like, okay, what happened here? Like he's a ghost.
Yeah,
And then
yeah, no, yeah. Then you see them when she comes in. It's like, oh yeah, because of course, like you don't see him until Winona Ryder comes in, and yeah, like that was even though I called it too, it was cool to see like they paced it well. You know, they definitely
a
paced it well.
solid conceit. How did we feel about the Soul Train?
So the Soul Train was funny. I definitely laughed. Like I laughed even harder when the Don Cornelius dude came out the train and did. I like that made me smile. I think the gag went on a little too long. They probably could have cut it after a while. Like it was really funny for the first like 45 seconds, and then I was like, okay, we get it. It's the Soul Train. Like, haha. Like you know, it's a good gag. I appreciated them doing it. It's also the closest that black people have come to being in a Tim Burton movie since Mrs. Pettigrew's Home for Peculiar Children with Samuel L. Jackson in it. So that was kind of bizarre, you know, but
Wow. It's like they made up for a whole career in one scene. Crazy.
you know,
Gosh,
but
the woke award goes to Tim Burton for that one. Good. Nice job, Timmy.
that's so funny. But you know, and then on top of that, I think like we did a like I told you, it wasn't like it wasn't 40x specifically, but it was like a 40x style like thing. It has a different name. It's with the theater near us is Showcase Cinemas, so it's whatever they have, and like the timing of like the timing of the seat was off. The scents all smelled terrible. They smelled like really cheap fucking hand soap and like cherry chocolate. It was just it just wasn't a pleasant experience watching that. And I'm actually curious to see if that like I want to rewatch the movie by itself just to see if that kind of took away from it.
Yeah, I feel like it would
But
be a really tight home watch, personally.
yeah,
Like, I mean, I never seen, the original Beetlejuice on a big screen, so I only know the home box office edition.
right.
But yeah, no, that makes sense.
But like it's like it definitely passed the time, and it was like pretty to look at, but it didn't really I wish I liked it more because yeah, I just wish I liked it more. But I'm not opposed to trying it one more time. Maybe like yeah, maybe once I'm just at home and doing nothing at the end of December and I just like run through 18 movies. That's definitely one that I'll try one more time.
Have you seen the
Um
movie The Player?
no, I don't even think I know what that is.
Yeah, so like it's like one of those things. I feel like I saw it at Blockbuster or something as a kid, and I've been Criterion scrolling, and it's like with Tim Robbins, and then the guy who plays the dad from the OC, the lawyer dad from the OC,
Wow, throwback.
and then I think one of the dudes from, like, I want to say like Starship Troopers might be in it. Vincent D'Onofrio is in it.
God buddy.
Um, yeah, got it's got, and Lyle Lovett and Whoopi Goldberg. Yeah, it's the story of a Hollywood executive who's suspected of murder, and but it's done in a way where it's got kind of a, I almost want to. Did you ever like the movie Get Shorty?
I did like Get Shorty. I didn't like the sequel Be Cool, but I like Get Shorty.
Yeah, no, the sequel is dog shit, but no, this kind of gave me sort of like not as stylized in the same ways as Get Shorty, but kind of similarly, like, we're behind the scenes, but I think even more executive based
Yeah,
than
yeah.
than that. But so that was intriguing.
I'm a definitely add that to my. I don't have my phone on me, but when I get my phone later, I'm gonna add that to my. I got a rolling letterbox list that's like it's got to be like 30, 40 movies deep at this point. And before we move on, I feel like I need to mention this since you brought up Criterion. They're having their flash sale right now, and just on a whim, I never get the chance to catch these flash sales, so I went through and copped myself four. I got myself four movies today. I went a little crazy. Everything was 50% off, but I still went a little crazy.
Would you get the Blu-ray or the DVD, or would you get?
So I got four Blu-rays. They were like $20 each. I got it was Do the Right Thing, which is one of my favorite movies of all time. I needed to yeah, like it's like I'm getting like I've seen that movie more times than I can count. I just wanted to have the special features and read the critics' essays in it. So I got Do the Right Thing. They just put out a new edition of Gummo. I'm a big Harmony Korine dude, so like I saw they just put Gummo out I think today. So I bought a new Gummo. And then there was these two movies I'd never seen before, one of which I'd never heard of. One is this Japanese kabuki horror tale oh, I think it's called Demon Pond or
Hmm.
something like that.
Um,
It just looked dope. So I just blind bought it off the strength. And Iowa Debris, she did the Criterion Closet, and she recommended this joint called To Sleep with Anger with Danny Glover, where he's like some drifter who shows up at people's. He's a drifter who shows up at a family's house, and his presence kind of like unravels their family unit in a way. Like it's a movie I'd heard of, and I've seen the poster for it a bunch of times, but I've just never watched it. And she recommended it, and I was like, you know what? Once again, I just copped it off the strength. So yeah,
nice.
those are my four. I love I'm big on physicals. I'm big on physical with movies especially. So like I never get the chance to buy myself DVDs. So today I was like, all right, let's do it.
Well, in the spirit of buying physical copies of things, I was at a record store today, and I found the full clip Best of Gangstar
Woo!
double disc compilation,
Hell fucking yes.
and
One of the
it
best greatest hits compilations in
what
rap history. That shit is amazing.
one of the best yet. Yeah, it was $10, man. And
Wow.
let me tell you something. I I felt things that I hadn't felt in 20 years, maybe. Just because I remember like a double disc felt like, oh, I have so much new music to listen to.
Right.
And like that would be so exciting to me that that would be a thing. I feel like I didn't have too many of those as a kid because they were obviously very expensive compared to just getting single CDs. So you'd have to have like either a nice parent or like a sale that would bring that one home, or like some gift
Yeah.
cards or something. I don't know, but to those at home that be like, why didn't you just steal it? I'm an awful thief. I would have gotten caught. It's for the best that I didn't try to rack it. But to those that rack, Godspeed, God bless. But
Yeah.
yeah, so yeah, that was a big one. I was like, yo, there's no way I'm not walking out of this store with this because this is too clutch. And again, $10, man. I feel like that
Yeah,
same
that's
thing would have been
insane.
like 30 or something like back in the day, like 20, 25, 30 something, maybe even more.
Damn. Like yeah, like I remember the first time I ever well it isn't full clip exclusive. No. Full clip isn't exclusive to that album, but that was definitely like hearing that version on that album through a YouTube link was the first time I'd ever heard full clip by Gangstar. It's like I had the homies at my crib and like they were just like freestyling the full clip in my basement. That's a yeah, very very good memories. I love a premiere beat to this day.
Beautiful. Yeah. No,
Yeah.
it's been a fun re-listen because I remember like I had part of that CD as a kid because a homie for like a birthday present like burned it for me. So I had like a burned copy of like the first disc or something. So this felt way more official.
Mhm.
So yeah, and also, nice to have it with all the packaging and the booklet and all that shit. So that was great.
Yeah, that's tight. Last thing before we move on, I want to say last year, I went to Newberry Comics and I found an original CD copy of AT Aliens with the comic in it,
Fire.
which I've wanted for years. I got it at my crib. It's everything, man. Like yeah, and like that, and I'm pretty sure that was like brand spanking new too, or at least like unopened. So that
Yeah,
was
that's
it was pretty
that's
cool to find that.
so epic.
Yeah, it was like, yeah, I love, to me, I think Aquemini might be my favorite Outcast album, but I think the best packaging for an Outcast album had to be AT Aliens. Like the comic is just insane. Like it's so worth it to have. Like just I'm gonna hold that very close to me forever. Um, but let's take it all the way back with you, Rich. What's the first movie experience you can remember having? It could be at the theater, it could be at your cousin's house. Just like the first thing that comes to mind. It doesn't have to be the very first thing, but just like the first thing that comes to mind.
Um, I mean, I feel like if we really want to go back, like I want to say like Beauty and the Beast or like
Mm-hmm.
Disney movies and like the Rescuers and like shit like that. Because I had a friend whose VHS game was very strong at a young age, and so he was great to have sleepovers with because you just go watch all these movies. But yeah, that in theaters, like I think, yeah, probably all that, and then just in terms of like being super, 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 super young. Actually, you know what? If we really want to take it back to the beginning, I think probably one of my most memorable film experiences from like a wildly young age was 2001. My parents were watching that when I was
Wow.
like, I don't know, two and a half. I was super young. I was like, I feel like I must have not been that much past the stage of like getting washed in the sink because I kept wanting to go into the sink and hang out with my mom while she was doing the dishes. And she's like, no, no, not right now. And like, I also remember I was obsessed with space and astronauts and shit like that. And like, so I was like, yo, I want to do what these guys are doing. How do we go do that? This is awesome. Like, I actually thought people were doing that. And, so that was a very mind expanding experience at a young age. I couldn't follow the story or anything like that,
Yeah,
obviously,
of
but I'm
course.
more just like seeing these dudes in these sweet suits, like doing futuristic shit, and I'm thinking, well, this is bad. Um, but yeah, I feel like somewhere between like that and like Disney. I feel like was probably my first film memory or memories.
Yeah, I mean, like thinking about it, 2001 kind of is a great movie to watch as a kid, but just like solely because of like the way it looks and the way it's paced. Like, like the average kid's attention span might not be able to hold and like watch the whole thing and like grasp it. But just to like, I don't know, just like thinking about the iconic shots in there, like of course, like the circular one and anything with HAL 9000. Like, I don't know, like it's like it really does just work as like a thing you can just like have on and just like experience and just kind of flit in and out of your brain. Like it's just like combining like that and the rescuers in my head is just I don't know why that's real funny to me.
Yeah,
The one that really stuck out to me as a kid was the one where they go to Australia. The Rescuers Down Under was my
yeah,
favorite of those two movies.
yeah. That one
Like,
was that one. Yeah, I feel like I almost feel like I had more of a memory probably of that one low key because I
mhm.
feel like it was a couple years later, like I'd be in after day school or whatever, and they would play different movies. They were also showing us some crazy movies to show children.
Like what?
We were like 5 or 6 watching Willow or like Airplane.
Jesus.
Like we're straight up just seeing like nudity and all manner of like
Yeah.
like joke about drug use and shit. I mean,
Yeah.
we were laughing our asses off because we knew it was funny, but like also in hindsight, like different times, no adult would like watching Big, like that's like low-key
Yeah.
pretty adult. And yeah, I don't know. It was they yeah, Uncle Buck, yeah, just that's
Wow.
what I'm
Yeah. Uncle
saying.
Buck was
Like
crazy.
we were, yeah, like we had some very interesting caretakers as children. And like, I mean, they loved us. They were lovely for the most part. But
Yeah,
like
of course.
it's just one of those things where it's just like, yo, if a parent heard any of this today, they'd just be like, what the fuck? Well, why are you showing my kids Airplane or like Willow? Or like I remember the Princess
Yeah.
Bride. I mean, yeah, that was another one where like, I mean, that's a great film, and kids
Mhm.
can watch it, but there's definitely adult humor and stuff.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
one's like right on the borderline, like
I
it's
mean,
right there.
dude, Uncle Buck, goodness sakes, like, I mean, shit. Same with same with like Airplane, man. Like I'm saying, like people are boozing, drugging, getting horny. Like it's a very,
Yeah.
very out there movie to watch. You're like, wait a second, this is unreal. But then again, like fast forward a couple years later, like I'm like 9 watching Animal House and like my parent I think they have regrets about that, if I'm being honest. I'm almost positive, but that's okay. Here I seem to have
Yeah.
turned out all right. I remember I told them that. They're like, we did that. I'm like, uh-huh, yeah, that was
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
That,
Yeah, this the same day I watched Animal House was the same day I ever had a frozen chicken pot pie.
wow.
Memories. Yeah, big moment,
Wow.
man. Seminal cornerstone shit.
Damn.
Yeah.
So like normally I follow this up with the capital M movie question, like the one that really connected with you in like a emotional, artistic, or spiritual sense. But before we get to that, tell me about watching Animal House at 9. I'm so curious.
I mean, it was definitely a little weird, but like it was funny. I mean, look, part of what made watching movies and makes watching movies with my parents really fun is they have great laughs. So if you're
Hmm.
watching a comedy, it's just like, they're just, and they're pretty easily triggered into laughing. So like I think it's a lot of times funnier to watch something with them just because you can kind of get into the swing of things, or like the spirit of things a little easier, just because they're just tapped in that way. And yeah, so I think like that was part. I just remember, again, like adults are thinking this is, I mean, like I'm 7 watching like Monty Python and the Holy Grail, same shit,
Yeah.
like it's just adults saying this is comedy, this is what this is. And throw in some very, very like tickling laughter from them, and it's really easy to just kind of get into the swing of it and laugh too. And then
Hmm.
here we are all these decades later, and we're still laughing about the same shit. So
That,
I turned out okay, I think, all things considered.
yeah.
But Definitely, yeah. I think that contributed was just their senses of humor being so sharp. I mean, that's the other thing too. Like, my parents are a little older, so like they put me onto a lot of things that a lot of other kids wouldn't, just like in
Yeah.
terms of like older media or film, radio, even radio shows, all sorts of things like that. My grandfather always cassette tapes of like old radio programs and stuff like The Shadow or The Green Hornet or like
Yeah,
there was, and
yeah,
like, I remember
yeah.
there was like an AM radio station that on weekends would like go to like vintage radio programming and stuff like radio plays and stuff like that, especially like horror and things of that nature. So like that stuff was always like fun and spooky. But yeah, I don't know. So I think they just made a point to show me a lot of older media. I think sometimes more mature things compared to maybe where I was at. And I'm very grateful for that because I feel like in some ways, I was exposed to some real classy shit. Let me put it that way, or I think more high-minded shit than some of my peers who are like out watching like Dunstan checks in. Wait, Dunstan, we're not here to besmirch Dunstan checks in. Is a great movie, I'm just saying that's not, these are also the same people that are letting me rent whatever silly fucking movies I wanted as a kid too. Like I remember I'll never forget the bitch fit I threw because I couldn't rent Sword in the Stone, man. Like that was my
Mm.
movie, man. I love that movie. Um and yeah, that shit was something else.
Yo, my fault. Sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to shout out the all new Real Notes Patreon page real quick. If you're looking for ways to connect and directly support the podcast, the Real Notes Patreon is the best way to do so. For as little as $5 a month, you can gain early day before access to every forthcoming episode of Real Notes, as well as an invite to the Real Notes Discord server, where you can talk to others about the latest and greatest in movies and music, come through for some listening sessions, and talk about whatever else is on your mind. I know I'm gonna be talking a bunch. If you feel like coming up off a little bit more, you could get cool exclusive content like audio from Real Notes Live and Real Talk interviews. Those will be exclusive to patrons and ticket holders moving forward. Access to retro versions of my 60-second Minute Maid movie reviews, and even a monthly writing and podcasting workshop hosted by me. Regular episodes will still be available on a weekly basis anywhere you get your podcasts, but if you want the extras, you gotta come out them pockets a bit. Check us out at patreon.com/realnotes. That's REELNOTES. I appreciate your consideration and support more than you know. Now let's get back to talking. Man, like, I really want to shout out to older parents. Yeah, like my father is he's about to turn 80 next year.
Let's
So
go.
like he was born, he was pushing 50 when I was born. So he's definitely older, and he's definitely, I'm like both my parents, like my mother's my mother's 63. She just turned 63 this year. So like my parents are definitely older, but like both my parents put me on the ship. But like my dad especially was like putting me on to like, he's really big on classic, like golden era Hollywood black films. Like one of his favorite movies of all time is Carmen Jones, which is this like, it was directed by Otto Preminger. There we go. Otto Preminger made it. And it was it's an interpretation of Carmen done up with an entirely black cast.
Sick.
Harry Belafonte is in it. Why am I Dorothy Dandridge? Dorothy Dandridge and Harry Belafonte are in it. And like that's a movie we watch around the holidays every year. It's just kind of become like an unofficial tradition at my house, where we just like throw that on and just watch it. But yeah, like stuff like that. And like he like he grew up listening to a bunch of, he's a music dude. So like we listen to a bunch of stuff. Like we'd hear old songs and he would come with just like stories and fun facts and like, oh, like I saw this person out here doing that, like, so then like we'd be listening to like Radio Disney, and then they play like Ray Charles's Hit the Road Jack, and he'd be like telling us who Ray Charles was and giving us stories and like background and perspective. And I'll never forget when he took us to see the Ray Charles biopic that came out in 2003 or 2004. That was kind of a head bust, like life-changing moment for me, in terms of like, that was like the first one of those movies that I really like connected with, because I don't know, like it's just a really powerful movie. Jamie Foxx did great in it. Ray Charles lived a remarkable life, like really complicated and like not exactly the best person on planet Earth. And the movie didn't shy away from the fact that he wasn't the best person on planet Earth, which I really respected because a lot of biopics will just, it's all just like his geography, dick riding type shit. But like, but yeah, like having his perspective and just kind of his frame of reference pushed on to me as a youngin really definitely gave me a more refined palate than I might have had otherwise. So, but he was also, but like my dad was also like really into like Chappelle. Like we had the Chappelle Show DVDs at home. I would sneak and watch those. Sorry if you're listening, Dad. He probably knows this. He doesn't. I'm sure he knows this. But yeah, like it was a mix. Like with him, with both my parents. Like my mother would have this like. My mother was really into like classic rock stuff, and like she was really into like Aerosmith and like Run DMC and LL Cool J and Sting and like I don't know, like stuff like that. But she also loved like new era LL Cool J and Breathe, Stretch, Shake back before we all knew what a monster Diddy was, like that type of shit. Like it was just fun. It was fun having slightly older parents in that sense because, like they definitely bring stuff that I might not have had otherwise. I feel like I'm rambling, but that shit is tight.
No rambling. We're sharing.
Yeah. 100%, man. So, okay, now I need to know your capital M movie, the thing that really connected with you in a why am I blanking on this question? Like I don't ask it every week. Artistic, emotional, or spiritual sense. Like something when you were younger that really hit you the first time.
Um, man, I got I got two of them. Is that okay?
Yeah, bro. Come on.
Okay, so I feel like I have always been a massive fan of Ghost Dog. I just thought that was the coolest movie.
Ghost Dog is tough.
And yeah, especially because like if you think about it, that's an interesting film to get into because it's not jam packed with action necessarily. Like I feel like they really pick and choose their moments to kind of have things happen, and they don't happen in such a way that's like it's not John Wick.
Right.
I honestly, who would you go with, Ghost Dog or John Wick? Who's walking out of there?
Oh, probably I'm gonna say John Wick, but I'm happy you brought that up because like Ghost Dog to me almost feels like the anti John Wick, even though it's obviously like almost 30 years older than John Wick, but like it feels like it almost feels like a rebuttal to John Wick, like it's very much that kind of movie, but kind of spun inside out, which I love.
See, I honestly think like it's a tortoise and the hare kind of scenario. I low key think Ghost Dog might be able to edge John Wick. Like I think it's like a 49-51. Like it's kind of like a dead
Yeah.
a cat like a sneaky dead heat on who might pull it off. But yeah, I just think Ghost Dog I really enjoyed. I mean, that was also I think a really interesting entry point or like kind of furthering of kind of like my fandom of like the Wu-Tang universe just with the
Uh-huh.
RZA's
Because yeah,
involvement and with
RZA
the
started.
soundtrack.
Yeah.
Um
Mm-hmm.
so I think that was something I really got excited by. And then um this is bad. I no adult would have approved of me watching this, but Boogie Nights. I
Classic.
it was on TNT when I was like 12. And of course it's the scene where like Dirk is in the parking lot with Casey Affleck being a freak for money, and like that part didn't necessarily speak to me, but it was definitely like a what the fuck is this movie? Because the way I found out about it was my parents had mentioned they were gonna go see it because that was like what they would do on New Year's Eve when I was a kid. They dropped me at my grandfather's, and then
Go
they
see a
go
movie.
watch like 2-3 movies and have a nice dinner, and then they'd come get me at the end of the night.
That's so
And
cute.
I remember like because that was like an Oscar contender or whatever, they had talked about it. And then also I remember postcard boxes used to be everywhere downtown, especially. So like you'd go to a restaurant and there'd be these postcard boxes, and they had Boogie Nights postcards that for Jack Horner, Burt Reynolds' character. And I remember like being like, oh, this is crazy. So I remember like taking one. I doubt I still have it, but yeah. So like there was kind of like some build up to it, and then seeing it, I'm like, yo, I gotta find out what the fuck this movie is, because like I watched it till the end from that point, and it was just like very, it was a dark watch. I feel like I don't think I was able to get a full run until maybe college, which probably is better. Better that way. But yeah, that one I think, especially as I've rewatched it, because that's one of those movies. I feel like what I like about those two films is, obviously you're watching a movie, right? But I feel like the universe building is such that I can get myself lost in it. And obviously, not
Yeah,
every movie needs to be that, but for me to really feel engaged, I need to feel like I'm kind of like really like peeking into a world that
yeah,
it exists in some plane, whether it's in the film that I'm watching, or maybe in some other distant corner of the universe or whatever. When it's just, you're not looking at a set, you know what I mean? And I feel like,
yeah,
especially like those two movies too, are very much all like using background environments as set versus having. I'm sure there were some sets like for some of like the club scenes and Boogie Nights or whatever, but they're also using California as like the backdrop for
hmm,
production value too. So I think like that definitely helps them on that quest. But yeah, I feel like those two especially, I really feel like really hit me.
yeah. I mean, I could sit here and talk about my love and appreciation for Paul Thomas Anderson all day. He's one of my favorite directors. I love Boogie Nights. I remember the first time I saw it. It was with the homies. It was at it might have actually been at my friend's crib at the time. But like the three scenes that always stick out to me about Boogie Nights, the first pool scene where
Yes.
Son asks Dirk to show whoever his dick or whatever. The
I,
scene with
I hear you've
this,
got a great big cock. And then
yeah.
he's just like,
May I
he's
see
like,
it?
and he's just like, oh,
Shit is incredible. That um the donut shop scene with Don Cheadle with the shootout,
yes.
like that's still one of the coolest things I've ever seen put to camera. And then of course the ending where Dirk's in front of the mirror, you're a star, you're a big bright shining star. He's just like naked
Well,
telling
the
himself this shit.
the party boy scene with Anthony Molina, I remember was like deeply disturbing, but also you couldn't look away. And
Yeah.
yeah, like though, yeah, though, like that's what I'm saying. There's so many like the things that build on top of one thing to the other. I think for me, like they went really deep. I read that Grantland article that they wrote about the making of Boogie Nights like 4 years ago. I remember it was literally March like 1st, 2020 when I read that. I only know that because I was the first day I got to LA and I was at my friend's house and he was taking a nap and then I was just like fucking around on my phone and it was like a 45-minute read and it was so in depth about everything. And I feel like it was like the perfect kind of companion piece to the film because it answered a lot of questions. And then, that that's actually based off like a short film he did in like the 80s. Have you seen the short film?
I haven't. I know it's based on it, but I've never seen the short film.
You saw the better version, I think.
Yeah, of course. Like
Yeah.
sometimes, because like sometimes with stuff like that, like the short will be better. Sometimes the feature length's better. Like I'll probably find it just as like just like as a historical footnote thing. I like that type of shit. But like Paul Thomas Anderson is like, he's somebody I love. Like I think the only movie of his I didn't like, and even after I watched it again, I think was Licorice Pizza. I fucking hated Licorice Pizza. I thought it was garbage. But like, but anyway, that's not what we're talking about.
I still haven't I
Those are
still haven't seen that. And I honestly am scared to see that is because like his son is in Saturday Night and we did not care for his performance really. And I'm curious,
oh, okay.
is part of the issue him or not?
So like he's good in it, but like I'm trying to think of what do I have to say about Licorice Pizza. Like the I don't know, the story didn't really do it for me. There's like several kind of like problematic aspects, but like it wasn't like as annoying and stupid as those were. It just like I just it was just it's weird to consider a movie of his like too meandering because most of his stuff is kind of meandering and kind of pretty slow paced. But I just think everything that usually works about his movies completely worked against him in it. Like Like Philip Seymour Hoffman's son is actually one of the bright spots in it. And I like the girl from Haim whose name I can never remember. She was pretty good too. But like I remember just being very unhappy watching it and just like I'm never watching this again. It just
Okay.
didn't do it for me.
Okay, so I'm now you very that's a searing indictment, and I am going to get an extra big popcorn when I watch that then.
Yeah, try it. Like I'll be interested to see what you think of it, but it was I was not jacking it. It was not my jam.
Did you like Inherent Vice?
So I liked what I saw of Inherent Vice, and I say that because when I saw Inherent Vice, I think I was like it was like early in my writing career. I was in the city for some bullshit, and I was like, let me just go see Inherent Vice. I made it about 25 minutes in, and I fell asleep, and I woke up with about 20 minutes to go, and I liked what I saw. I only fell asleep because I was tired. I wasn't bored. I could not stay awake for the life of me. But like the funny thing is, like having read the book, I feel like I got the proper experience watching the movie, having only seen the first 20 minutes and the last 25, as opposed to watching the whole movie. So I enjoyed it.
Okay.
I hope that answers your question.
Totally. So I saw it with my dad. We a great excuse to go to the movies on like a Tuesday, eat some popcorn and
Yeah,
kick it, and that was cool. I think probably my favorite part of that. Well, you haven't seen it, so yeah, I don't
yeah.
know. Let's just say that.
I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch it.
Do you like Martin Short?
I do like Martin Short. Yeah,
Well, that then you should watch that movie and look for Martin Short. That's all I got to say
cool.
about that.
Let's go. Damn. All right. So let's do the same thing for music, Rich. When did music become capital M music for you? When did it go from kind of being like a like not even in terms of wanting to make music, but just like initially being fascinated by music? Like when did music first kind of grab you?
From the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, my mom and dad played me a lot of things. And yeah, it was always kind of a present thing. And my mother was a musician. And so, she obviously has her tastes or whatever. And so yeah, from like the beginning, I just always had music. Like I feel like, and it wasn't even necessarily like kids tapes either at the beginning. Like there was
Mm,
some, but like maybe it was like a collection. I remember there was one collection of like kid songs done by like bigger artists. So like that's how I found out about Bunny Wailer and like Sting, because like they
yeah.
were doing they were doing these kids records. It was fun, the Bunny Wailer shit, especially Sting. The Sting part I found a little annoying, but she also had Bob Marley live on cassette tape. And I remember like very vividly like being in my bedroom when late at night and she's putting me to sleep and we're listening to that. And that was always like a big rush. I mean, the Beatles. I mean, once my parents showed me the Beatles, there was like an intense love affair with that for several years. And then like from that it kind of begat trying to listen to like older rock and R&B from like the 50s and 60s, and just cuz like I don't know, I was fascinated with the era, so to speak. It's just something about it just seemed so great, and I was really wistful that I couldn't have experienced some of these things. You know what I mean? One of those kids. And yeah, so I feel like it just kind of snowballed into all sorts of different things. But like that's the other thing too. Like I feel like for whatever my parents were giving me, I feel like I was very aware of like rap and hip hop at a super young age. Like I instantly was like, I like this. And that to me was just, yeah, like almost instantaneous. And I yeah, I don't know. I kind of found my own way at an early age with that. And then, eventually kind of started showing my folks stuff I was listening to. I think one of my greatest achievements is getting them into Outcast. That I
Hey.
consider that a big success. Under that act, I look forward to spurring similar fandoms with They Hate Change, if we're on that topic, because to me that's like the successors so purely. And I mean that as like an absolute compliment, not even, it's just, I don't know. I find the way they play off each other really fun. Actually, yeah, when I was in town, like I told you, I was able to see them live for the first
Hmm.
time, and that was really sick. But yeah, I think yeah, just kind of just from the jump was always very into music and wanted to listen to it and wanted to know about it and know about the people making it. And um yeah, here we are 36 years later.
Did you like two-parter? What was some of like your earliest what were some of your earliest favorite rap songs, or like who were or no, let me ask this again. Who were some of your earliest favorite rappers, and as you started to get older and kind of like develop and refine your tastes, when did you know that music was going to become more than just a hobby for you?
Man, I feel like I'll never the one of the most vivid memories of my whole life is being downtown Chicago, going into some children's theater production that my our parents had taken us to, and me and my best friend dancing around on the sidewalk and rapping loudly Tootsie Roll. Um, we thought that was the hottest shit. And um, I mean, also like Montel Jordan, this is how we do it, Big Pun,
Hmm.
Biggie. I mean, there were,
Right.
we were getting little glimpses, and like a kid shows up with a Walkman and there you are, you know what I mean? Or like, somebody takes control of the boombox at summer camp, and there we are. So I don't know. I think in terms of like more than a hobby, I don't know. I think it's interesting to see how the the emergence of the home recording studio, or the kind of like the home music making setup, specifically through GarageBand. Man, I remember when the computers at school got GarageBand, and I was like, well, shit, I can just make beats. And like, I remember I found it really, and it was actually really discouraging because like I didn't realize you could chop stuff up. And so I was getting annoyed with all the loops. And I'm thinking I'm making these like epic, like looped pieces of work with the stock things. And then I remember like a few years later, like when people started uploading music to MySpace and shit like that, I'm hearing the same loops that I was using. And I was like, oh, that doesn't feel good. I don't know if I like that. Um,
Right.
but yeah, either way, it was still really important because it at least allowed me my first experiences of like, yo, let me try to record or make my own thing. And like, there was one kid in particular who kind of knew what he was doing. There was a couple of them, and specifically in this instance, Benny Nice. I don't know if you've heard of him.
I
He
have heard of Benny Nice, yeah.
Yeah, so like yeah, like we were in high school. We linked up around 17, and that was a pretty important series of experiences of kind of getting into like, again, the whole, like the setup I use now honestly probably isn't all that different than what we had in 2006. It's
Hmm.
just back then it was more like, ooh, he was using a cracked copy of Sonar, for the tracking, and it worked great. It was awesome. But yeah, I think that's probably high school. Late high school is when I'm starting to think, well, like I would love to give this a shot and see what I can pull off, or at least do. I don't know. I like this thing. Um, Unfortunately for me, I wasn't very good, or I was sorely lacking in kind of mentorship and guidance in that. And um, I got super lucky that at the beginning of high school, that's when I met Montana Max. And then we reconnected after I graduated, and that summer we were on the phone almost every day talking about song structure and like me, things I should listen to, etc. So I think that real kind of, I guess, like somebody mentoring me in how to train my ear, or at least kind of get my knowledge up on like what has preceded me, and like, or like what is out there for styles to appreciate or study. And I think that was kind of the turning point, is when I started to really immerse myself like that. And then also like just the sheer dumb luck of being in the same early like open mic circles as like the Tomorrow King, what would become Tomorrow Kings, like with Sketch 185 and
Shout
Gyroscope,
out.
and then also like Def C, and just yeah, these are like who 2006, that's like the starter kit, and like all of a sudden here we are like half a lifetime later, and it's so cool to see where everyone is at, and like everyone's still active and thriving and shit. So that part's exciting. But yeah, I think that it's also a kind of a phased thing too, because like I didn't know what you had to do to finish a project or the level of focus you needed. So I think for years I was kind of more like a party rapper, like you need freestyle for people at parties or like at whatever kind of function that would be tasteful or not so tasteful to do it at. And yeah, it was kind of at the end of college really when I kind of was like, yeah, like if I really actually want to do this, I really should knuckle down and do this. And so I started kind of looking around for who could help me with that. And I think having a good engineer can really give you the sort of confidence you need to proceed with that sort of growth. And I feel like my homie Kyle Resto was like the perfect person to have that experience with when we finished my first album back in 2010. Because I would go there once or twice a week and we'd work for 4 or 5 hours, and then we'd smoke some weed, and then I'd go home, and then we'd come back the next week and do it again. I think getting into that sort of rotation of focus, like I think I've had similar rounds where like I just make a commitment once a week to go into the studio and work, and all of a sudden I'm going in and I'm doing 6 hours worth of work, and we're coming out with like you know 2 to 5 new songs a week or something, and all of a sudden you're building catalog, and I think
Right.
it's
Yeah.
just there's phases to that. I mean, that phase specifically is like 2016 to 2019, but like it's just to say I think to your point of like music is really really I would say right after college for real, because that's I get thrown right into it where I'm like, yo, let me start getting my name out there and seeing what shows I can get booked for, and like, kind of having also some really random early successes in terms of like having really positive experiences in front of full rooms because I was getting booked to open sold out shows. So like
Right.
the first show for real that I had as a solo artist that was of note was, we were like the openers to the openers for Mac Miller's first show in Chicago. So it was Mac
Mm.
Miller, Kids These Days, and Dave Koresh, and then me and the other dudes, and I won. And that was awesome because all these people are coming up to you and they're buying you drinks, giving you weed, and looking at you like you're somebody or whatever. Who the fuck am I, right? And I'm starting to feel pretty nice about myself. And I'll never forget there was these two twins that used to go to all the shows. There were these like hype beast trust fund twins, and they couldn't decide if they liked me or not. So they'd be like, yo, we, sick job. And then they'd be like, fuck you, and I'm like, all right, man, like I'm going to White Castle. Y'all figure this out. Um, but
Right.
but then yeah, then after that, like we opened for Macklemore and Blueprint like 3 months later. And yeah, again, same deal. It's just so like my friends kept being like, yo, we keep trying to buy tickets, but shit's sold already. And I'm like, figure it out. I don't know. Sounds like you should buy a ticket for me then. If you're trying to see the gig. Yeah, and yeah, just like having a nice like I think couple years of getting those sorts of support slots, and then also doing like smaller local showcases, and kind of experiencing being adjacent to or like occasionally included in kind of like the blogosphere culture of the time, like whether that's Ruby Hornet or any of the other ones that were active, kind of more for my vein of it all.
Right. I mean, like, I'm happy you brought that up, like just now, because like I've known you as somebody who has all these different ties to all these different to like all these different musicians and producers and rappers and booking agents and all these people, like everywhere really, but especially in Chicago. Like, you really do kind of you really are kind of like you kind of are a point person for a lot of people out there, and you've seen and done so much over the course of the last like 10-15 years. So like, what just like from your perspective, like, having made music, having promoted music out there, having made music for yourself, for other people, having promoted it, having performed it, having watched people perform it, like being a staple at things like Pitchfork Fest and other stuff that's, like not exactly as big as Pitchfork Fest. Like, what do you think makes the Chicago music scene and the Chicago rap scene, especially like at that indie level, so special and something that you're really happy to be a part of? Like, what about it continues to pull you in today?
I mean, and this is a statement that's not meant to be controversial, but might be taken as such. So no offense intended, but it's just my opinion. I think the era, like I'd say like 2010 to 2020, one thing that I really took note of, I feel like if people were on stage, they could perform and do it at a high level. And I
Mm-hmm.
saw that at almost every level of whether someone was just in the basement or someone's up on the main stage, people were bringing the goods. And I think that's just to say that's in comparison to a lot of the other places I was going. Like my first like kind of tour experience was in 2013. And I just remember, it wasn't like all rap shows we were doing. The guy I was touring with was kind of like he was dipping his toes into the rap world, and he was coming from like the indie section of things. So it was kind of like this melding of worlds and crossover that was fascinating and fun. But it wasn't like that's what we were rocking with every night. But I will say I feel like hip hop as a whole nationally, if I was going to smaller places or smaller markets or whatever, there were things that could be appreciated, but like I just didn't, things felt dated or like not in sync with like kind of other trends in a way that like, could be really cool, but it also could just be kind of, whatever. It is what it is. And I feel like by the time I went, like my last tour before the pandemic was 2019. And I feel like the two, like 2018, 2019, the tours I went on, I feel like especially because of like the internet, for lack of a better like way of explaining this, like people had caught up because they were able to study and access all these different styles and presentations and aesthetics. So I think like it's something where Chicago has always had a high level of execution, especially when it comes to the performances. And I think that's what's kept me engaged and kept me excited is, kind of regardless of whether anyone's paying attention, you hand someone a microphone, they'll do it and they'll kill it. And then they'll go back to doing whatever they're doing. And, I think that's really special. And it's something that I appreciate about us dearly. I think like, it's a maddening thing as you get older too, though, because talent doesn't mean a goddamn thing. In terms of
Yeah.
like, I mean, that's okay. Maybe that's a lot, but it doesn't. It doesn't mean what it should. I know that, and I think it's frustrating sometimes in this market where it's like I see people that I just am like, this is a star, like this is the best thing ever, and I don't know why this isn't doing more or isn't being championed or trumpeted by more people. And maybe I'll never know the answers for some of these things. I mean, at the end of the day, it's also as somebody who started literally from like, I'm not very good at this, but I want to do this, to now over the course of like essentially almost 20 years of working on making music and making songs and shit. I feel like the guy that's doing it now is head and shoulders better than 20 years ago, obviously. But it's like, that took a lot of effort. And I think for some people to break certain barriers, it just comes down to putting in that effort. And I think the other part of it is like getting out of here to see what else is happening elsewhere for greater motivation and insight. And I think ways that you could put your time and energy into, what you're doing, whether that's,
Right.
and I think it's really tough for people to get out of Chicago because Chicago's dope. Chicago's a great place to live and exist. And it's very easy to just stay here. And that's great. That's awesome. But I think like if the intention is to like be some sort of star while doing it, I mean, sure, I think it's doable to an extent, but it's not going to be something where like as widespread or beloved as if you're like hopping in your car or really making a concerted effort to like push what you're doing to like people that cover music in other cities or even other countries. You know what I mean? Like I think that sort of jump, it's just yeah, it's tough to say what exactly would move the needle, um unless you the artist are pushing it that hard. Because I know obviously like there are labels and there are groups here that do push stuff out there and are in the market, and that's great. um but I mean their resources are limited to the people that they're linked up with. So I mean it's like, how do you make it happen when you aren't on a label or don't have a press agent as your manager?
Yeah.
I and so yes, I don't know. I think that challenge comes with great talent. How do you export it? How do you send it out to the rest of the world and then, you know, do it again and again and again and again?
Yeah, man. That's the million dollar question for pretty much anywhere, but especially like, like the thing I've always appreciated as somebody on the outside of Chicago is just like how like I think the ecosystem y'all have developed is really cool, and I love the way everybody out there, like at least kind of at our level, is super supportive and super pushy, like pushing other people to kind of move beyond their confines, out of their comfort zones, explore not just in terms of like location, but in terms of just like their artistry and things. And like that's one of the things I've always really admired about the music you make in particular. um and I think that's part of the reason, and like having seen you play shows as much as I have, and seeing the way that you're always working with people like in and out of the city, especially with a project like Sour Dub, is really really dope to me. Like I mean, like you've of course been making music for like a good minute at this point, and like your last like the last like solo build Rich Jones project was probably Smoke Detector with
uh
Iceberg.
yeah, full length, yeah. But
Yeah,
there was the EP with Golden Beats, the This Is Decidedly So, or It Is
right.
Decidedly So. Wow, I fucked up my own title. Yeah, and that was kind of like spring 2023, and then I didn't get going with Sour Dub really until that fall, in earnest.
Hmm. So yeah, I mean, like talk to me about how you first connected with Sleep with Sinai, and how Sour Dub really first started to come together. And and you're like when y'all decided it was time to make a full length first and foremost, and then how the project came together.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of people, a lot of the folks that I've kind of linked up with over the years, really it starts because of the pandemic, because everyone's just very online. And
Hmm.
I feel like artists were sharing a lot of their work, and it was kind of, people had more time to just be leisurely about it and enjoy that shit. And I think, I'm imagining that's probably how we got in tune, was somebody shared something that they had done with him, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. And then he hit me up to be on something in 2020. Damn, it's 2021. That's crazy. That's when we
Hmm.
that's low key when this all kind of starts, is we we worked on a song together, and that kind of got the ball rolling. And then by spring 2022, he starts sending me packs in earnest. That's after I did the Blue Beach EP with Killer Kane. And it was kind of around that same, because like the way that the Killer Kane project came about was, we were at my lady's parents' spa in Massachusetts, and I had a shit ton of time on my hands, and I had my recording gear, and I was like, let's go. Let me just hunker down and make a project in a month. And
Yeah.
so this kind of, I thought that this would maybe be kind of like a sequel to that. Like, let me make a quick little EP while I'm here. And that was right around when Sour Dub was really starting to kind of roll out. And um so I kind of got in sourdough land. But then over the years I just did a shit ton of listening, just so much, like just running beats back. Like the beats on this project I've done yeah, many listens of it before I've even gotten to the writing stage. And so in this instance with him, it
Right.
was kind of like it was something where I was like, man, like, okay, like I got a handful of these records. I see a couple directions I could go. And then what really kicked it back off, because I had like a dozen plus beats that I really liked. Um, but going on tour with Shrapnel
Yeah.
last fall, it was like I hadn't done a run in a couple years, and it was just it reminded me why I enjoy doing this, and that I wanted to make new things. And so like last fall is like I had like a handful of records, and I hunkered down from basically like early, a little bit before tour two, but like in earnest essentially like November to like end of December, just like writing and recording, and just like big chunks in a pretty quick period of time. That's why you see on the cover on the back it says the speedrunner suite, because it's kind of a tongue-in-cheek joke, because like I had these beats for years, I've listened to them a million times, and then in terms of actually writing to them and doing something, it's kind of like speed running, where it's like, okay, let me beat this level real quick. um so yeah, I think like that's also kind of where this it's the same process with some of these other projects I have waiting in the wing that are part of the series. Is these are all songs that kind of kick off around 2021, 2022, and then here I am 3 4 years later finishing them all in the same circle of time. And luckily I checked in with Sleep enough over the course of the dormant times where I was just like reassuring him, like, hey, like I know it's slow, please be patient. And I think that's also why I've been going so hard on the promo end with this, is because I really, he was wonderfully patient with me. So obviously, aside from rewarding him with a well written album, let me also put all my new ways to present this to people. And yeah, so he's been great. It's really crazy because like at the end of the day, like I think it's kind of fascinating to make something as personal as this, and to have kind of had this really interesting collaboration and exchange with someone that I've really only talked to on the phone once. And like we've
Yeah.
messaged and stuff, but like that to me, like, and it was like a long call. Like from the chats we've had, I have a hunch, if and when that epic link up actually occurs, I think, dude, we fuck with each other. So I'm excited to see what that looks like when we actually do get to be in the same room and work or do whatever. But yeah, I think it's something where yeah, especially coming off of Smoke Detector, like Smoke Detector in all senses of it, making that was so fun. And it was like definitely like inner child, like, let's try this, let's do this. And I think,
Mm-hmm.
due to circumstances and just, life and whatnot, I think some of the luster of that experience got knocked off, and it kind of sobered me up a little bit in terms of like, yo, this is still a fantastical voyage. When I make things, I have to find ways to protect myself if things maybe don't go the way I want. And I have to like find a way to like be attached to the work in the ways that it's so necessary when you're making it. And then when it's out, find ways to detach so that I don't feel like tethered to whether it goes good or bad by my metrics or whatever. And then so it doesn't feel as like all or nothing in terms of like whether I have a good feeling about what has happened and how it's being received and whatnot. Um, so yeah, it's been an interesting one to run with, but yeah, I think ultimately like I much like with Iceberg Theory and Kane and Montana Max and anyone I've worked with since 2020, I think the biggest asset outside of them making great things is like their patience with me and their trust that I'm making mostly the right choice. Because like so much of my recording and working with people has been in solitude, And I've only had a handful of sessions really with an engineer, even just in the last 4 years, and it's been
Yeah.
I've had to like retrain myself for those moments, or like just kind of allow myself to be water and just kind of like be what I have to be to fit the situation and get comfortable. Because and
Yeah.
I think it's important to it's the same as playing an away game. So it's not the home stadium. How are you going to get the win? How are you going to do what needs to get done and make sure that the work happens in the environment that you are in? You can't always have like the perfect situation, because then you'll never get anything done.
Right. No, absolutely. I was gonna, yeah, no, like I was gonna ask, just considering that you made this project, like considering that this and several other projects you're working on are being kind of made in these like short spurt runs, and just in like different areas, what do you feel Sour Dub represents about you that everything else doesn't, if that makes sense?
Um,
Because it's just pretty raw. Like you already said it before, but this is a personal and raw project in a lot of ways.
I think so. I think what sets this one apart, like I said, I think it's I'm on an interesting thread. I think one thing that was a tough thing to restart with the pandemic was I had an idea of where I was heading with my creative path. Like I have an album that is on ice from that started in 2017 that like is really good, and I hope someday I'll release it. But at the time of everything happening in 2020, I was just like, yeah, there is no universe where this exists right now. So I better put this one in the cryo freezer, and let's figure out where we're at. And like that's kind of in a lot of ways where I felt strongly that if I was going to make something, I felt like I had to go back to the beginning, and I think it was such a good choice. Like the beginning in terms of like when I started doing this, like I was making hip hop music almost exclusively. I've always wanted to sing and stuff like that, but I wasn't nearly as confident in that. And I think
Mhm.
in learning how to do these different styles of music and different genres, and then taking those lessons and applying it to the question of how do you make a great hip hop record, it's I've yeah, the returns, listen to the music, you tell me where I'm at with it. But I personally think it's become a really fun fusion of all these different things, and without having it be kind of this weird question of like, well, is it hip hop, or like,
Yeah,
or whatever.
right.
And like, and because that's the thing too, man, like even in my moments where I was like off doing pop music and stuff like that, like I've never shied away from like where this comes from, and it comes from my experience as an MC first and foremost, because that's what I am. You can call me a vocalist, that's accurate. You can call me a rapper, that's accurate. Personally, I prefer MC because I think that allows for very in a more succinct way, and in a really like conceptual way, like allows for the universe where someone just kind of can flawlessly go from rapping to singing, because it's all flow, right? Like to me,
Right.
MC stands for microphone controller. I control the flow. This is my game. Balls in my hand. I have to make it sound good, and it has to make sense. And as long as I do that, I can do what I want. And I think
Yeah.
like that in that really, I think, got the rose tinted glasses treatment with Smoke Detector, where I just kind of went hog wild and just leaned in and really loved me some me, and really really loved making that project. And then I think with Sour Dub, coming out of whatever was messing with me, or had kind of caused me to kind of take a step from that previous release, I think it was with the same sort of tactical approach of like, yo, how do we make this shit raw, but also I think with frankly, I think a bit more heaviness and kind of urgency, in the sense of like, man, you can make something really good, and something might trip you up, and I can't ever let something trip me up and keep me from making the next thing, or keep
Right.
me moving forward. And not this is not at all to like to dog on or what we did, because that was literally my first sessions for real with an engine with a producer in the room with me, and we're working together and we're talking and we're having conversations, and it's like
Who
the
was this?
songs
You
are
cut out for a second. I'm sorry.
sorry, with Golden Beats in
Got you.
Portland.
Shout out to
um
Golden Beats.
yeah, and so like, I think that was like in terms of getting me back on the, like, there isn't a sour dub at this moment without kind of that bridge experience and project with him, and like hopefully we get to link up again and make even more stuff, because he's an absolute fucking joy to work with. But I feel like, yeah, so I think with sour dub, it's just like, okay, like, we're back, you're alive, you love doing this, you genuinely love doing this, like, fuck everything, you need to make this. And I think that is kind of where it's maybe not as warm as the last project in certain respects, but it's I think
Mhm.
it hits a little harder because I put in my reps to make it hit harder. you
Right.
know
See,
and yeah, so that's, and that's exciting because it's just like, oh, like, I have, and I think the craziest way that I've experienced my own growth, because I smoke a lot of weed, people know I smoke a lot of weed, and like,
the
I have a
album's called Sour Dub.
it is called sour dub, indeed. But like, I personally, like, I don't know. I've had a good memory. I've been good about memorizing lyrics for the most part in my life, but I feel like, especially with this project and the way that I went about writing it, I think kind of connects in the same way to like Blue Beach and It Is Decidedly So and Smoke Detector, is the ways that I wrote and recorded this. I I just very much was doing it in a fashion where I was catching very unforced, effortless takes for the most part. And then once you kind of get that muscle memory of the effortlessness and of the pockets that come with each individual record, it's made performing these songs, I can do it almost immediately now. Like, I just
Yeah.
gotta, if I don't know the words all the way, give me like 5 or 6 run throughs and I'll get you the 95% version, which everyone knows is a-okay. Or the
Yeah.
100% version. Sometimes you pitch a perfect game, but it's just to say, like, I've really enjoyed seeing the interplay between like what I'm doing in the studio and how I then can instantly just take it to the stage and have something that's game ready to the capacity that it's game ready, in terms of like maybe doing a more intimate style set. Because I think also, you've seen me perform, and I think I obviously take a page kind of from like the singer songwriter presentation, where it's like maybe you chat a little bit, or maybe you're kind of having asides as kind of part of this, versus like, all right, now everyone get your hands up, and it's kind of like the show experience. Like, my shit's way more relaxed,
Yeah.
or
Way more
more,
relaxed.
I would say more contemplative, or than maybe like the turn up shit. Which, like, that's the other thing, man. Like, don't think for a second I don't think about what a turn up record looks like from me, and like
Yeah.
what that would feel like. Because like, I feel like once I break that wall, that's going to be such a crazy world to live in too. And whether that's
Yeah.
under Rich Jones or a completely different title or name or whatever, who's to say? But yeah, I relish the opportunity to like deepen my appreciation and feel in this one pocket, while knowing that there's rooms yet to be explored. I mean, that's why we keep making things, right? It's because it's like there's
Yeah,
still work
man.
to be done. There's still things to be said. There's still energies to channel. And I think especially with these next 2 full lengths, I'm very excited for people to see the way that I thread the needle from this project to the next parts of the Speedrunner Suite series.
Damn. Like, the Speedrunner Suite series is a super fucking fire name. I love it. Like, as a speedrun appreciator, that makes me happy. B, the thing that I love, like, re-listening to this, re-listening to Sour Dub again, like now that it's like officially fall, at least out here on the East Coast, like this really does feel like the perfect summer into fall album, because like a lot of these songs are warm, but like they'll start they might start out warm and eventually get kind of tepid or cold. Or like they just start out cold, period. Like it took me a minute to figure it out, but I think my favorite song on here is Dream Blunt Rotation.
Yeah.
Like I'm like typically I try, like, if I hear a single, like obviously if I like the single, I'm like, this single's great. Da 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 da. Like in my head, I never wanna walk away being like, that's my favorite song because it feels like even if it isn't, it feels lazy to me. Like I just do that in the back of my head where it's like you can't pick the single, you got to pick a
Right.
song that lets people know that you actually listen to the album. But like re-listening to it, I think Dream Blunt Rotation is my favorite. I think that one really kind of I think it example I just think it's a great example of what this whole project has to offer, like the way that you find your way through these like really stormy but also kind of like warm and inviting but also very melancholy beats, like and like that one really does fit it. Like it feels like a digital rain cloud. It feels like a if if it feels like green and brown and red leaves being swirled up in like a little mini tornado, and you and Suede and everybody else just kind of rapping through it. Like yeah, it's and it's like you're at this you're in this position where like you talking like there's elements of pop in here, there's elements of like some rock stuff, some indie stuff. Like I would even go as far as to say that I get a little bit of shoegaze from this, just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit. But there's, like you said, there's never a period of time where I'm like guessing or trying to convince myself like, oh, is this a rap record? This is a rap album. Like you're rapping. There's never any doubt in my mind. But the fact that it
Well,
can occupy all these different spaces while it does that is cool. And I mean, like obviously, like there's plenty of other tracks on here I love that aren't just Dream Blunt Rotation. I love Ice Cream Cake. I love Cool Jerk. I love the title track. I love Sour Dub with Green Slime and Joyride. Joyride was initially my favorite. And then I listened to Dream Blunt Rotation enough and I was like, yeah, nah, this is the one. But like yeah, it kind of has this you're giving a lot of yourself here, but not in a like it's weird because like I wouldn't consider this album to be like diaristic at all, but like you are giving a lot of yourself. It's weird. It's in this weird nebulous space that's I like this project. This project is really cool.
it's interesting. I'll only just to say it's interesting you say that you don't think it's diaristic because I don't think like I'm not a super literal writer in a lot of respects, but
Right.
I'm definitely I'm weaving words to create a world, right? And that I'm not like A to B to C to D, and then we got
Right.
some food, like
Yeah.
or like Big L the heist. I had to go get some spaghetti to eat, like I feel like that man got spaghetti on so many songs, bro. That's like his twist is hit it from the back, I hit it from the back,
Uh-huh.
had to get spaghetti to eat. No, but I feel like it's funny because I think like Joyride, especially much as with Smoke Detector, that song especially is like that is a window into like a day in the life a little bit, because like my car, I guess that the name of the tour with Shrapnel was the Bubble Lung tour, but like my car is also kind of like the Bubble Lung. It's kind of like this rounded Tiguan, and empty cups of Joe and more lighters in here than inside my home. It's
Yeah, you're
let,
right.
let's
You're
let,
right.
let's
You're
go let's
right.
go to the car cam real quick. Let's see how many lighters and coffee cups he's got in his shit. But I think it's interesting that Dream Blunt Rotation is your favorite because that one to me kind of gives like a almost like a Young Guns meets like a Geary Wrath of God kind of thing. Fuck Klaus Kinski forever. But
Yeah.
have you seen that movie?
Yeah. You said Aguirre Wrath of God?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. I love it.
Yeah,
Great.
see, I found out about that shit because of the Clams Casino. I am no, when I am got whatever, I forget what that song is called, but the music video had like clips from that movie, and I was like, I have to see this movie. This looks like absolute madness. And so I feel like in kind of the way you're talking about, you're inside of the rain cloud. Yeah, you're in the forest. It's like it's tempestuous. There's a lot of swirling and things moving around you, but ultimately, especially with that being kind of the gang kind of thing, is almost like the crew is riding off into the sunset or whatever, or riding into the next thing, which is like to be continued. That's kind of the vibe I was shooting for with that record, where it's like let's have like a almost like an end of act one finale where we get like a strong cutoff and then you have to wait to see what happens in part two,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and just where we're at there. Because yeah, like I don't think the series itself doesn't inherently have a narrative. I think there's parts of myself I'm sharing. But yeah, I know it. So it's not like if you only hear part two, it's not gonna make sense. No, it's not like that. But it definitely. I am personally excited to do like the back to back to back version of this album and do like a 90-minute listening just to see the flow and where it goes. Because I think like especially with like part two is just fucking sick. I'm not gonna say a damn thing about who these albums are with because I don't want to ruin
Hmm.
anything. But let's just say I got some really special people in the mix here, and I'm to the point of patience. I know understandably so. I'm not always the easiest to work with because I do take my time. I promise you I'm not George R. R. Martin to those out there listening. But
Right.
like it's definitely something where I'm not gonna just go work and write a song every day because that's what you do. No, I definitely need to live. I need to feel things. And if I'm divorced from my emotions or cut off from them, it's like it's not a what's the point thing because I think also writing can also help you unlock that stuff too. So I think, pushing yourself a little bit is not always the worst thing. But um I really don't want to throw any mid into the world. Like there's so much
Yeah.
mid out here. And if I'm gonna take time to do this, let's make it count. Let's make it special. I almost feel like the studio is the space where I'm like, let's make this special. Let's make this shit
Yeah,
count.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it's not that the shows aren't the same way. I still approach the shows like I want the shows to be special, but I feel like the older I get, the more it's like I have been here, I have done this. This is in some ways as much for me to find a way to entertain myself, which in turn will then entertain those that are around me. And
Right.
so that's been really fun to kind of be like, it's almost like being a baseball player. So I went 1 for 3 this month, and that's pretty okay. So what did we like? What didn't we like? What do we want to do better? And I think that's the thing too. Like whether in the studio, I went all over the place and did a bunch of different types of music. Live, I've done stuff with full bands. I've done stuff with smaller trio type sets, and it's all good and well. But like just to be totally honest with you, I definitely have not scratched the surface of like what a live experience could be, and I know it because right now it's like this is I think in some ways this is what I'm capable of doing with my time and energy and where I'm at in life. I also know at a certain point, like you know, it's I let me just say this. I'm very curious to get to the end of this trilogy because especially I think that will be maybe the time where maybe Rich Jones goes on a break or I do something very different where people are like, well, this is very different. And it'd be like, well, yeah, like for like half a decade, I locked in and got back in touch with the beginning and really kind of like I think did that part of my life its just desserts and collaborated well there. And then now it's like now let's find a way to go to the stars too. Not that you can't do
Hmm.
that with rap music, don't get me wrong. It's just like I really think that there's a live experience. I mean, dude, we've talked about this before, man. Seeing Diggable Planets, that to me, that's my favorite live hip hop group because of the seamless nature that they've blended the analog and like and kind of the digital with the live playing. And so being able to have like SP drums along with a live drum, along with
Yeah,
whatever other live elements. I mean, I think to me that is like the perfect elevation from the original record. Is like
yeah,
if we're gonna do this differently or with extra things, this just has to be better. Like no question. And damn near, I would love to hear a Diggable live album if they haven't done that already. Sorry if they have, and I'm under a rock.
I don't
Word.
know if they have. I haven't heard it, so
Maybe
I'd
maybe we
like
got
to
to
hear that too.
got to start our Grateful Dead esque bootleg collection of Diggable shows.
Let's go.
Let's
Fucking,
go.
but
I'm
yeah, like
in.
that shit matters though, like that live experience because like I mean like you look at it on one hand like yeah, the like the record as recorded like that's going to exist forever and wherever people find music, but like like bringing the live experience to people is like that has the opportunity to like redefine it for everybody. Like there are plenty of versions of songs that I wasn't fucking with when I first heard them on record that I can't get over now that I've
Right.
heard them live. And there's also plenty that have actually kind of ruined the recorded version of me because the live version was so bad. It kind of works both ways.
Yeah.
So
N-
I'll be yeah. All I'm gonna say is I'll just be curious to see where you take that, because I mean, like, having seen your live show, it's like it is very relaxed, but it's also very like it really does kind of feel like we're in a living room in the best way. Like it really does feel kind of like communal and intimate in that way, and I'll be excited to see how you want to push that forward, like however you do it.
Well,
So
I think the other thing that I'm super curious about and intrigued by is, as I grow as a musician, as an artist, like understanding that, like, again, one of those unexplored rooms. I think hip hop is not inherently a genre that lends well towards being covered necessarily. I think
yeah,
it can go more wrong than right.
agree
Not that
100%.
there
Yeah.
aren't people that can't crush it, but like I just think especially because it is so personality driven, like I don't need to see insert person necessarily do a Wu-Tang cover. You know what I mean? Like that feels weird. But like I feel, so to that point, like how do you like what is a way that one can experience kind of walking in someone else's shoes or playing with someone else's work? And I mean, I don't play an instrument. I've never played someone else's music before, especially in front of an audience. And that to me kind of feels like, let me like fuck around and pick up piano or something just so I can like
Mhm.
try that and just, I don't know, have fun with that, learn what that is. Because I think also after I experience that, I think I'll be able to better communicate what I need to people that are playing for me, because I'll have like a finally a taste of what that looks like and kind of what I would want in that scenario, and kind of go from there. And I think, to that same point, what are ways that I've been playing around? Like I'm not like a huge karaoke fan by any stretch, but I did kind of have a moment recently. I was like, I think it wouldn't be the worst idea if you're ever in a scenario where that's a thing and you just want to have some fun just to like fuck around. Think of a song that you really fucking love and just do that every time and
Yeah.
over time, like it just becomes like an appendage, and like maybe someday I break that out. You know what I mean? And like
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
not gonna say what my song is. You're just gonna have to experience it if I decide to fuck around and share that. But I think that to me has been a really healthy exercise in being able to kind of stretch out what's possible, and then also learning someone else's pockets and kind of like ways of execution, and then what are the choices I'm gonna make differently because this is my version,
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
so well, also in my mind, like, look, if I ever did like a proper cover of something, I either have to break my foot off in that ass or it's not happening. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like,
Exactly.
I think like
Yeah.
if foolishly years ago, I was like, man, because one of my favorite songs ever is "You Dropped the Bomb on Me" by the Gap Band. And I had to have a real heart to heart with myself. Where I was like, Rich, you love that song. I don't think it makes sense for you to perform that song for people right now.
Right.
Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
maybe in a
Yeah.
few years, maybe after a stint in CrossFit where I'm like getting my dance moves on, giving my K Fed on, then maybe we'll see what happens. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's kind of more where I'm like, when I say doing different things, it very well could be I'm literally not focusing on my music anymore, or for a period of time it's like, let me take these talents and put these into other things. Because I think the other thing that Smoke Detector, It Is Decidedly So, and this album and Blue Beach all kind of allowed me to do, and How Do You Sleep at Night too, is I really fell in love with mixing and like with textures and stuff like that. And so I could see a world where I as time goes on, maybe I'm doing that for other people. And, kind of, because I
Yeah.
that's what's really fun, is when people send me their vocals and I'm like, ooh, a different voice. Let's get going. This is gonna
Yeah.
be
Yeah. Yeah.
super
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
And I think, that to me is kind of where there's a lot of different ways. Hello?
Yeah, what's up?
Man, that sucks. Where'd you lose me?
Oh man, I think it was just after you started talking about mixing. Yeah, I think I lost you for maybe like 20 seconds, something
Okay,
like
yeah.
that.
So like one thing that was really great about working all these albums since 2020 is like I really fell in love with mixing and textures and
Right.
really starting to play around with the actual sounds and being able to be creative in that way. Where like I've gotten to like find the plugins and things I need to do where like I can make my voice sound good in almost any scenario to me, which like at the end of the day, it's my call, right? So
Yeah.
unless it's like freakishly bad and someone has to tap me on the shoulder and be like, Rich, this ain't it, I'm in a spot where I have a high level of confidence that what I'm doing is good enough to pass off to a mastering engineer and then go from there. And so that sort of way of being creative and taking those talents and applying them to like other people's work, or even just in terms of like, hell, having the features on my project, that's a really awesome experience to be like, okay, sick. I get to work on these people's vocals and mine, and I get to play around with making their shit sound what's good to me in my world. And because I definitely have opinions on vocal mixing in hip hop, and I think like I got really lucky, man. I mean, I'm standing on the shoulders of a real giant, man. My guy Matt DeWine, he was the sound guy for the last couple of years of the monthly showcase I was doing called All Smiles,
Yeah.
and he's got a really fascinating story because like before we were linking with him, he had been Willis Earl Beale's sound engineer. So, he had, kind of gotten a taste of kind of like ascendant fame through the eyes of and the experiences of Willis Earl Beale. And then, he was running his own studio too, Pi Holden, which is dope. But yeah, man, like I won't lie to you, when we had him as our engineer for our hip hop nights, hip hop sounded like the most fun thing you've ever fucking heard, man. It was like there was a buoyancy and like the blend of delay and reverb felt so special. It was so vibrant and just so yeah, man. Like I remember we did a Thanksgiving show. I think this must have been 2018 or 2019, and it was us, um, and these two other rap groups, and the other rap groups point blank like I became a bigger fan of them as artists and as groups because of the way Matt was mixing their vocals. And then like I went to listen to the recorded shit. Recorded shit's great. People made choices. They're awesome. But like it was one of those things where it's like, damn, like you really can like change the whole tenor of a thing through something like this. So now that I'm kind of in a position where I'm playing around with those choices and I'm making those choices, it feels nice to in some ways kind of share with people. This is what I think a hip hop record could sound like, at least with what we're doing here. And because I think part of a lot of people's things is this, I get the need for cleanliness in recording a vocal and whatnot, but on the other hand, I'm like too clean, I'm snoozing. I need a little
Yeah,
I need a little crackle, need a little snap, a little pop, little
yeah.
little something that's gonna make me feel something truly, like
Yeah.
in the ways that when it's coming through. And I think also with a record like Sour Dub, obviously that's kind of a quiet nod to like that style of music. Obviously, it's not a dub reggae album by any stretch, but like I definitely felt high levels of freedom in the choices that I was making to kind of freak
Hmm.
things and make them kind of sound and feel certain ways.
Yeah, one thing I would never call sour dub is sterile. I would never call it too clean. I would never call it too quantized or anything crazy like that. It's definitely like, like it definitely has that quality of dub to it where it's a little scuzzy and a little, like for lack of a better word, hazy or blurry. And like yeah, I mean like you said so much just now that I love to hear. And I'm just, yeah, I don't know, just you thinking about all this stuff, now makes me, it's once again, like you're somebody who, like, to me, you can do it all. So I just can't wait to see where you take all of that stuff. Like I like, like just like being able to see you ideate all this out. I'm excited to see like exactly where it winds up when we get to hear these next two projects and wherever you wind up. I man, like I really feel like I'm about to digest. I gotta like sit and digest everything you just said. and I feel like this conversation could go on for like another 4 hours because every time we talk, it could just go forever. But
Yeah.
but
Dylan, time for dinner. Hold on, I'm still talking with Rich. Hold on,
that's
Yeah, no, I'm kidding, man. I'm kidding.
so
No, but no, man. I appreciate that. It's gonna be, Lord willing, an interesting 18 months in terms of like getting things out there and whatnot. And honestly, man, I got to give a big shout out to like, the Chicago fan, Montana Max, Def C, um, Green Slime, Kari, and then my East Coast people, fucking Dove, Shrapnel, Woods,
yeah.
um,
Shout out
you
to
know,
literally all those people,
yeah,
every single one of them.
but then also like, Sharif 89,
Hmm.
Good
Jersey
Food,
affiliates,
like
yeah,
there's just like yeah, like I feel like all of those people are contributing towards like giving me like really interesting perspectives on making things, executing things, and then when we link up, it's like you're taking what you've learned and I'm taking what I've learned and we're making something even cooler. What a great equation, and or like
yeah,
going out west, like linking with like Grape God, Milk, uh Frankie Jacks, Nomad, Reese Langston, Silas Short.
yeah,
It's just it's exciting to have dope, kind people to talk about this shit with as we think about like where we're taking it. And like I think especially, it's cool to also feel like we're all encouraging each other and pushing each other. I mean, yeah, also like in the biggest sense of this, man, shout out Bruiser Brigade, man. Shout out JUS,
yeah,
shout out Ray, shout out Wolf,
yeah,
shout out Rafi, like
yeah, all of them, man.
Quentin Ahmad the God. Like, I won't lie to you, man. It really put the wind in my sails when we played Detroit last year and all those dudes came and were like rocking with us. And like, these were dudes that were voices in my car that whole summer. And all of a sudden they're in front of me. And not only are they in front of me, but they're fucking with it. And like, that really was like, okay, like this is great. This means I'm doing
Yeah,
something right. Cause the respect was massively mutual. I mean, shit, man. Wolf said some of the kindest shit anyone could say to me earlier this year, and it was really motivating, especially as I was getting into like the final innings of getting Sour Dub ready. He was like, bro, you're one of those ones, man. Fuck everybody and just drop. Just do it. Like, you're locked in. You're in your own world. The ball is in your hand. Do your thing.
yeah,
So like that to me, like he's one of my favorites, man. And it just, as a person, is just like incredible. So like, I really have to credit him, especially with like him and others who have just said the kindest shit that, again, it's all of us being this kind of supportive. I feel like in a lot of respects, right? I feel like it's not just me or just any one of these guys doing it individually. I feel like this is just who we are, and we want to see our homies that are dope win. We
right,
want to see people that are aspiring for cool things to happen, to have cool things happen. So I think that sort of energy I carry thoroughly. I think to go back a little bit to what you were saying about Chicago, I think in a lot of ways, spiritually, I can't peg my soul down to just here in terms of like what I'm making. And in a lot of ways, I think what I'm making is probably better understood or like more instantly appreciated in other places. Doesn't mean that what I'm doing here doesn't get its own shine. I'm very lucky to have gotten the low I've gotten, but it's just to say like one might despair to think, oh, all of my people are in these other places, boo hoo. And like, true, that's one way. In my mind, it's like sick. My rap hangout is national.
right,
I can have this sort of experience like I've had in Chicago and a bunch of different cities. And, you know, heaven forbid we're all in the same city at the same time. Oh my gosh. Like, just think about how epic that has and will be. I don't know.
yeah,
I
yeah, yeah,
I just see a lot of really healthy things building up, and I especially am encouraging of people because obviously I travel around a lot, but I really hope next year I'm able to, because I've already hosted people individually when they come to Chicago and shown them around and kind of gotten them acclimated to like, I guess, my version of the city. And then obviously they tell me things they're interested in and I show them and whatnot. But like, I think doing it on like a more organized, like kind of almost like writing camp style sort of thing where we're pooling from people from all over that are coming here for a specific period of time to work on something collectively, or if nothing else, to just get better acquainted. I don't know. I hesitate to be like, and they locked in for 6 days and they made this album. I mean, like that's been done, right? Like I think in some ways, I think it's just as simple of let's just this is maybe this is where the meeting is happening, and if you're in town, join us, kind of thing,
Right.
and making it a bit more casual, at least to start, and then building momentum that way. I don't know. I'm gonna think on that, but I do think one thing that I appreciate is the synergies and the mutual respect that I think are really moving around in most quarters of you know who I'm running with out here. I mean, look, if you ain't got kindness and respect out here, we probably can't dance. So if that's you, sorry, learn you some
Yeah.
kindness and respect. But on the other hand, it's like, if these things are happening naturally too, I mean, like let's ideate on that. Let's push that. Let's see what that creates and like what gels.
Absolutely. Yeah. Like we're all just here to feed into each other. And to and for me to feed into you one last time, Rich, if your life was a movie, what would it be about?
Man, that's a crazy question. That's so tough, man. I feel like a mix between Ferris Bueller and Neverending Story.
I like that.
We gonna catch a Cubs game and we're almost gonna get killed by some laser shooting like Sphinx-like creatures in the desert, and maybe we lose our horse in a mudslide. But then
I was about to
also,
mention a
I
mudslide.
you know
Yeah.
I pose as like a sausage air. There's a lot of different ways that could go. Yeah, I feel like that's kind of the and maybe with a dash of Dunstan checks in.
Nice. Yeah. I love a good um I love a good collage, especially to describe a life. And like, man, Rich, thank you, bro. Like, it's like, I don't know, like between this, the interview, and just like all the encouragement you've given me and all the music and perspective and just the friendship, it's just like, I don't know, like every time we talk, I walk away very nourished and very like, I feel full right now, So just like, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for taking the time and just for, I don't know, just for being you. I appreciate it more than I can put into words.
Love, homie.
Like,
Thank you for having me.
nah, man. Yeah, yeah. Like we've been trying to make this happen for too long, and it's went exactly like I thought it would. Like I couldn't ask for anything better. Like
Nah, man, for real. I'm deeply appreciative. Thank you.
you already know, man. Thanks for listening. Shout out to y'all for making it this far. And shout out to all the black people listening too, because y'all really impeccable. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell a friend to come through next time. 1.